Hey, everybody. It's Eddie from Tokyo. This is a guest that I've been waiting to have on the channel. This is Troy Wood of Impel. He has a very interesting software, I think, for the cryptocurrency space and also for payments. If this is your thing, you're really going to like it because he's got something very unique and he's really solving a problem. So, Troy, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's such a pleasure to be here today. Thank you. So my name is Troy Wood. I'm the CEO and founder of Impel, which is a startup spin-off company out of the XDC Network, which is created and maintained by Zenfin FinTech, which was the co-founders are Atul and Ritesh, which will happen to be my business partners and advisors to Impel, as well as you probably heard of the other celebrity, which is Andre Casterman, who was with Swift for about 24 years. He's also, part of our leadership team.
Yeah, it's a good solid team. He is especially fun to follow on Twitter, Andre is, because of his he's just making a lot of moves. So for people who don't know, Zenfin is a fork of Ethereum, but you actually made some improvements when it comes to speed and fees and security, right? So maybe just explain that for the people who want to just understand quickly the protocol itself.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Eri. Is the XDC Network protocol, which is a layer one blockchain, is a fork of Go Ethereum. So it has everything that Ethereum has, but it's so much better. It has a 2-second block time. It has high scalability of 2,000 transactions per second plus, near zero gas fees of 0.00001 cent per transaction or even less, military grade security, forensic monitoring for bad actors to identify and get rid of quickly. All the master nodes or standby nodes are KYC compliant. So it's really geared towards trade finance and banking.
What really caught my eye when I saw what you were doing is that you are creating something to bring a lot of these tokens into an ISO 20022 messaging format that Swift is migrating everybody over to. Maybe clear up for everyone that it's not necessarily the token that's compliant, but it is the software that's compliant. And yeah, talk about how your software can be used.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a lot of talk on blockchain and whatnot of these new startup projects that these tokens are ISO compliant. But really, what it boils down to is the software that's being developed on top of the blockchain, the tier one blockchain itself. And so at Impel, we have an API that we've built that runs on top of the XDC network that allows anyone to send a ISO 222 compliant financial message, but it's a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot more secure. So we have something called a layer 2 protocol to where the financial message is not really sent over the XDC network, but it's reported on the network. So the information can be held private and secure away from private eyes.
So I don't know if you have a word for it, but it would be like a private channel or a parachain or a side chain, something like of that nature.
Well, we call it a layer 2.
Layer 2. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is kind of interesting because Swift has been trying to get everybody to use this messaging standard. Well, they first introduced it in 2004.
That's right.
What is taking so long?
Well, so what I hear is that in the banking industry, they're kind of referred to as dinosaurs. And the way that I think about it is, they're in the business of making money or lending money. They're not really in the business of spending money. Well, software development does cost money, and so it's quite complex, to get it right. And so my theory is that because of the time that it's taken for the implementation, is that it's just a slow rollout. A lot of companies over in Europe have already adopted the new ISO 222 compliant format. And then you may have saw just recently last week in the United States, the SEC, not the SEC,
Federal.
the central banking system said that they're going to push the implementation back until 2025. I think either first quarter or second quarter of 2025, because these banks are him-hawing around a little bit, dragging their feet on the implementation. But that is where it's going. Like I said, a lot of the world has already adopted it over in Europe. It works out great. You're really adding a lot of security and better functionality between the new format compared to the old format. The way that I like to think about it is, let's just say, for instance, the old format, you only had 4 or 5 bits of data that you pushed across. Well, now in the new format, it could be like real world terminology that's easy to understand, and you can use more, like the 10 or 12 bits of information. So that way, the transactions don't get lost or misinterpreted or things like that. It's a whole lot more robust, which leads to a lot higher security, better performance, speed, and you kind of get rid of all the guessing games about the data.
Yes, I know that the percentage of SWIFT transfers that actually do get kind of lost in the system is a lot higher than most people realize. So you're bringing a solution that saves a ton of money, and what I found interesting is I know we don't have to know the exact fees, but maybe tell everyone who's listening that if you do use SWIFT and you do use their messaging system, there's just a ton of fees to operate with them, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's really, let's say, for the bigger players in the industry. So a lot of the startup banks or neo banks or banks that are in emerging markets like Africa or Asia can't afford the fees. So Impel's API solution is a perfect solution for those entities that want to take advantage of the same financial messaging, but they just can't afford it. They could come to Impel, adopt our plug-and-play API, and we don't charge any integration fees. We don't charge any annual membership fees. We don't charge any bulk messaging fees. Really, the only fees to pay are the network gas fees on the XDC network. We're essentially free anyway. And the way that we've designed the API is you can send one message at a time, or you can roll up as many messages if you like and send that as one envelope or one transaction if you like. And so we're talking gas fees of like 0.00001 cent per transaction. So really, it becomes a no-brainer solution. And I'll tell you, even on top of that, is our API allows for collateral to be attached to that financial message. So you could send XDC in that message payloads for an instant settlement. So rather than going through the traditional methods of the Nostro accounts and settling up at the end of the day with a central banking system, you could, sending a payment from point A to point B, you could use collateral and then settle up instantly. Some of the offerings that we have for settlement are the XDC coin, which is native to the XDC network. You could do what we call an XRC20 token on the XDC network. Could be a stable coin or another coin as payment. And then once it gets to its final destination, at the last minute, we can convert that XDC or stable coin to fiat and deposit that into the account. So really, we try to make it a no-brainer solution for anyone that's out there.
Let's do an ISO 20022 payment.
Yeah, we're so pleased to offer this. Anyone in the entire world can come to impel.global, register, just their name and an email address. We'll email them a link to a self-paced demo where they can perform a real-world live transaction on the XDC network's main net, which has already been live for 3 years. June 1st was our 3-year anniversary. And it has not gone down one time. So you can compare some of the other top 25 blockchains, which have gone down from time to time. But the XDC network is really built well and really thought out and what we like say safe to use. It has not gone down with our many upgrades. So let's go ahead and walk into the demo. Let me share my screen. Stand by a second, please.
Sure, thanks. Well, that was really fun. That's so interesting. It's easy to use.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're really proud of it. We can't think of anyone else in the entire world or the universe, for that matter, that's offering a real live demo for ISO financial messaging. So I think we're the first, and I'm not sure if anyone will go follow us, but it'll be an honor if they do. Thank you.
So I also want to talk a little bit about the Dazzle bridge, because I saw on your website that you have a bridge to the R3 Corda. And I think it said it's the first bridge or something like that. And I thought back, well, but isn't there a Dazzle bridge that was built? So maybe you can just kind of clear that up.
That is a great question. And there is a little bit of confusion out there in the marketplace, but it's not their fault. It's not the community's fault. What had happened on the original press release of the announcement. So our business partner or development arm is Lab 577 over in London. Those guys have been doing banking and software for decades, and they have a lot of great experience, and that's why we use them because they're really, frankly, in my opinion, the best around. So it turns out that Lab 577 has their own proprietary software called Dazzle, which is a way to bring multi-blockchains together for interoperability. Well, there was some confusion about that if the Impel's bridge, or the bridge from the XDC network to the R3 core platform, uses Dazzle. Well, it really does not. It's its own bridge, created its own software. So it might have a few snippets of code here and there out of the Dazzle platform, but really it is not Dazzle. It's a standalone bridge with its own software.
I got it. I understand. And then there is also, within the XRP community, we talk about the Corda settler, which can settle with digital assets, including XRP, and then just R3's Corda. What's the difference, if there is any difference?
Yeah, well, so apparently what that started that was really announced back in December 2018.
Correct.
I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very similar concept to what Impel brings to market. It's about moving digital assets onto the R3 Corda platform to the Corda apps, and then off again back onto the blockchain. So it's a very similar concept. Unfortunately or fortunately, that implementation did not gain traction. And really, to be frank, I think it was still quite early on adoption at the time as it was. They were really forerunners in their thinking. Unfortunately for them, it just did not work out as they had expected.
Well, what happens if somebody who's on a different protocol, what happens if they want to use your software?
Well, that's right. So a lot of people are attempting to do what we've already done. But our main objective and our number one goal is to gain mass adoption and acceptance of the XDC network. So that's really why Impel exists. And so what we're doing is we're bringing to market real-world use cases, real-world service offerings in that banking and finance, or corporate to corporate, if you will, for people to use.
XDC is going to be, one of the assets that will be available to use for different dApps on Flare networks. So are you working with Flare at all?
Yeah, that was right. So just over about 13 months ago, that announcement came out to where the XDC network was going to be partnering with Flare. But that rollout is taking some time, to come out to production. I will say that we're not in direct talks about partnering with them for anything Impel has, but it really kind of goes hand in hand, and we're excited to see as time moves forward and it does roll out how we can partner together and get people using both our platforms together. It's nice that the XDC network has a lot of existing users already that are primed to use Impel service offerings. can think about Wadzpay. You can think about Alliance. We don't have any official announcements at this point, but you can, in your mind, you probably can say, "Oh, those partnerships lined up pretty well."
So would I be correct in saying that if, let's just say, this isn't, this is just if Wadzpay was to use Impel, then people would be able to say that Wadzpay, the token Wadzpay, is also then compliant within the Swift network messaging that's being migrated to, right? Because it's just a matter of using your software.
That's correct. Yeah, as we had mentioned earlier, so we've created the API to be able to use XDC, the native coin, or any XRC20 tokens, which those other tokens are on the network and can be attached in the messages payload. So yes, correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes for some pretty big possibilities for the whole ecosystem of the XDC network.
That's right. And you can think about this. So it's not really about banks or financial institutions per se sending messages back and forth to each other. It's also about corporates, institutions all over the world, and even not really big corporates. It could be small, medium-sized enterprises that could use the same technology and benefit from it. And where it'd be the real value add for them is the cost is basically free.
So I'll be sure to put all of your socials in the description of this video, but is there anything else before we say goodbye to you that you want to be sure to communicate to everyone?
Yeah, well, so a lot of people ask if there's a way that they can support Impel. Is there going to be a token they can invest in or things like that? Well, we have no plans for a token. There is no Impel token. But the way to support us would be, what's out there today really is with the XDC, the native coin on the XDC network. We're out on social media platforms. So if you really love and appreciate what the XDC network community is doing, you can piggyback and support us on what we're pushing out on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Telegram. Tell all your friends and family. That's a great way to support what we're doing here. Is because, like I said, our main objective, our main mission is to grow mass adoption and usage of the XDC network.
Troy, it's been a real pleasure, and I'm very thankful that you took the time to explain what is going on, and let's check back in with you again in 6 months and see what partnerships you have would like to announce.
Yeah, thank you very much. We would love that. We very much enjoyed the time with you today, and it's a real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.